Okay, man, I hate sounding redundant, and I'm definitely not a one-trick pony, as people who watch my channel can attest. This is not the only subject I ever talk about, but it just seems to be coming up more and more, and people are, expressing their bogus take on this very real and present problem that young men today are suffering the brunt of. And I say young men today, I'm obviously not a young man today. Um, but my heart goes out to the young men today. I have a son who's 17. He's one of the young men that my heart goes out to. Um, so, so we've spoken about this issue a lot, or I have. And I've referred you to Gerbert. What's his last name? I can't remember his last name right now, but I'll remember it. He Gerbert Johnson. He also has a YouTube channel called Gerbert's Void. Both of them are very, very well worth listening to. He's a very articulate young man, funny. He's not just whining and complaining. He has a lot. He has a lot of dark truths that he is discussing, but he does it in a way that's sort of leavened by his sense of humor. But like video after video, like I've done a couple of videos in the last week or so. I covered one of them yesterday of people just taking this crisis of unwanted young men today because of cultural trends, because of social media, because of the encouragement of girls to be hypergamic, and thus the men who are considered low or even mid status are just ignored. This is not normal. This is it's an exaggeration of what's normal, right? Yeah, it's true that I think in any age, look, it's biological, right? There are millions of sperm all trying to get to the one egg, and only one of them makes it. And so in life, it's usually the men are going to be the ones who it feels like there's more of them, even though I don't know if there are more men than women right now. I think there are more women. But, there's just this whole, you gotta prove yourself to me before I can take you in. And that's sort of the dance between young men and young women, the courtship dance. That there's something normal about that. There's something not inhumane. It can be done at a pitch where it's not inhumane, right? And I think in previous ages, you still had to sort of go out and compete with other possible suitors and prove yourself if you wanted to be with some gal, if you wanted to be your one and only. But it's not like that now. Now it's absolutely out of control, to the point where it makes a lot of young men feel like I feel when I'm applying for a job, and I know that there's like 180 other people applying for the same job, and it's like, oh, you got to be the best. How are you going to be the one out of that 180 people? Come on, it's like, you know, I'm. What's the point, right? They're probably not going to pick me for this job. I'm probably somebody that that they've just put up. They just have an obligation to consider a certain number of people, and they've just padded it out with someone like me. So I know that seems like a defeatist attitude, but it's an attitude that just you cannot help but it just takes hold of you, and you just sort of say, well, why bother? And I can understand why increasingly young men today are saying, why bother? Now, this article is so weird. This was published at Fox News. I'll provide the link below. It's weird because it identifies the problem, but the writer, doesn't speak to the heart of the problem. He deflects from the heart of the problem. And then it turns out that the speaker is somebody, this Eldo Buttonzoni, Italian, evidently. It turns out he's with PragerU, which I'll get to in a minute, and so it becomes a little bit more understandable, or it's one can see why he's dissembling, given the outlet that he represents. So anyway, scroll down. Let's just read some of this. Sorry for the glare. Sorry for the specks of dust all over my computer screen, but you're used to that by now. Part and parcel of being a low status male, which I embrace with relish. All across America, marriage, sexuality, and relationships are on the steady decline among young people. According to a new Pew Research study, 63% of men aged 18 to 29 report being single. That means the number of single young men is nearly twice that of single young women, indicating a large breakdown in the social, romantic, and sexual lives of American men. The big question is why? Okay, so far, so good. One would think that making romantic connections would be easier than ever in our digital world, but the opposite is true. Now, here's where he goes off the rails. Our culture of convenience has paradoxically made dating more difficult for men, as they are forced to a hyper-competitive, superficial environment that emphasizes instant gratification over true human connections. Okay, well, he hasn't gone off the rails yet. Sorry. That was preliminary on my part. While there are several potential culprits causing this relationship breakdown, nothing has done more damage to the dating landscape than dating apps, social media, and pornography. Yes, agreed. All right, so all true so far. Those are facts. Let's start with dating apps. The advent of relationship websites started with Match.com, 95, evolved into the swipe-based platforms we know today with Tinder and Hinge and Bumble. According to a survey, blah, blah, blah. However, new census data shows that U.S. marriage hit an all-time low in 2019. For every 1,000 unmarried adults, only 33 got married. This number was 35 a decade ago in 2010, and much higher at 86% in 1970. So what gives? Okay. Now, here's where he goes off the rails. It's easier for men to date. Easier. What? Didn't you just say it's hyper competitive? No. Now you're sort of going back on that and saying it's easier for men to date. Thanks to technological conveniences, yet this technology has created a counterintuitive situation, leading them to have a fickle attitude toward relationships, constantly searching for the next thing instead of committing to one person. So this is the situation faced by men today? That's what you're telling us, Aldo? This is the situation faced by men. This sounds like what it's describing is the top tier men. So it's easier for them to date, but there's so many more out there that they might as well. It's hard to commit to one because you can date one and have fun with her, and then you don't want to commit because look at all these other ones out there that you want to date. You want to bang them too. I mean, this is not. We're supposed to relate to this? Like low to mid status young men are supposed to read this and relate? It goes on. With the abundance of choices on dating apps, young men are finding it difficult to build deeper connections with a single person due to that sense of constant availability. Yeah, he's describing, again, he's describing what it's like to be in the top tier. He's describing what it's like to be a man deemed desirable. He's describing what it's like to be in the top 10% or 5% or 15 or 20% or whatever the top number of those who are considered high value, quote unquote, really meaning high status. So anyway, with the abundance of choices on dating apps, young men are finding it difficult to build deeper connections with a single person. They're hard. Most young men are finding it hard to find any woman on a dating app pay them any attention whatsoever, unless they're extremely handsome, extremely rich, or have some other marker of status about them. But that's not what that's not how Eldo from PragerU is describing it here. When a minor red flag appears in a relationship that is otherwise going smoothly, why stick around and work it out when thousands of other choices are right at your fingertips? Young men are making that calculation every day on dating apps and are siding with the latter. How can you blame them with the constant programming coming from social media? With social media today, men can scroll through their feeds and popular pages to view more beautiful women in one setting than most men would see in their lifetime 100 years ago. The way he's describing it is just like, yeah, man, it's just like shooting fish in a barrel, Got all these gorgeous babes out there, and I just click on them, and then it's a match, and then we get together, and we do our thing. And it's, she's nice and all, but then she's sort of, something about her voice kind of annoys me, or, she's not perfect in every way. Her boobs aren't quite big enough, so then I go back on social media and find another girl who's prettier and has got bigger boobs, and then we do our thing, and this is honestly how this guy is describing the crisis for young men. Are you kidding me? That's not the crisis faced by young men. So let me read a little bit more. The crisis is the opposite. The crisis is no one female pays them any mind. They're treated like they're furniture if they're not super high status. Social media vies for people's attention, leading women to commercialize themselves, which gives men an unrealistic expectation of the dating pool. On social media, people are encouraged to show only their best, even if it's fake. Yeah, of course, that's true. But, I mean, I don't know. My limited experience with these dating apps, you don't really see. There's not a lot of best that I'm seeing. But anyway, with the advancements in facial recognition technology, yeah, of course, filters and all that. We don't even know we're getting catfished and blah, blah, blah. While women reap the benefit of online attention, men are left wondering how the dating pool has gotten so far out of reach. Consequently, the same women who are marketing themselves as something they're not are left with a partner and wondering where all the good men have gone. Both sexes are conditioned to treat themselves as a number instead of embracing true human connection and partnership. All right, there's truth to that, but I mean, I just don't get it. I don't get it, Mr. Eldo Matrizelli, or whatever you are, whatever your last name is, and I can make fun of your last name because I'm Italian too. Anyway. Simply put, the breakdown of relationships between men and women is startling, and is detrimental to a healthy society. On that we agree. The good news is that men can fix this, as the remedy is easier than we think. Leave dating apps, stop watching porn, and go talk to girls in real life. Well, 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I would say leave dating apps. I would say stop watching porn, but don't. I mean, I'm not saying don't talk to any girls, but don't put yourself in these contrived situations. These like don't do this like a cold approach type of thing that the PUAs all say you should do, because that's just weird, and it's likely to just scar you and embarrass you. So I don't know how do you identify the problem so well. Eldo is a cultural and political commentator for PragerU, who now hosts their very popular Men on the Street series. Really, it's very popular, huh? Well, it's probably popular. I'm sure it's more popular than this YouTube channel, so I shouldn't be trash talking on Eldo. Eldo got his start doing on-the-ground reporting for Blaze TV, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so anyway, it's so weird to me, and I'm done with this, so let me just comment, show my steering wheel as I finish up my commentary here. It's so weird to me how they put forth this writer for PragerU, which is an influential conservative think tank, and I think PragerU is good in a lot of ways. They are kind of neat. They are kind of on the neocon side, of course. But as far as culturally conservative, I think that's a good thing about them. They're very pro-marriage, which I'm not against marriage. But they're also kind of into this shaming of men who avoid marriage, and I'm not down with that at all. They and Matt Walsh, and there's a few other culturally conservative men, or culturally conservative think tanks or journals or outlets that just seem to say, men, you need to get married. You're going to be happier when you're married, and that's just not necessarily true. I mean, so anyway, what's sticking to this article? It's so strange to me that this article identifies the problem and then takes this radical shift away. It's just like we saw with those other two videos. They identify the problem, except the other two videos at least identified the correct problem and then applied the wrong solution. This time they identify the problem and they say, well, the problem is now that men are just too inclined to want to womanize, because there's more and more girls out there. They don't want to settle on just one. So, no, that's not the problem faced by the huge majority of sexless, single young men today. That's not the problem that they have. The problem that they have is not that they're just going from bimbo to bimbo, and not settling on Mrs. Right, because they've got so many choices of who to go out on a date with. That's not what's happening. You're describing again the problem, if you can call it a problem. I don't know if those guys would see it as a problem, but you're talking about the situation that's maybe faced by the very top tier of men who rule the roost, who get whatever they want, who can just as I said, it's like they're shooting fish in a barrel. It's really weird, and maybe this guy's just dense, and he's just not getting it, or maybe he's intentionally misidentifying the problem, because this makes men look worse. Saying the problem is that men are becoming too fickle, because there's more beautiful women out there to choose from, and they're at their disposal. That makes it sound like the problem is that the crisis is is that there's too many men who are just gorging themselves on, sex with scores of beautiful women. That's not the problem faced by the vast majority of young men today. Eldo of UPrager, and surely you must know that. Leave your comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to y'all soon.